So good evening, everyone. I was just checking the participants' name. I was seeing that I think we have some of the repeat participants who were there in the first 22nd June call. So welcome to all of you and those who have joined today for this session. I hope that you will have a very good, enriching time this evening. We have an excellent panel which is lined up to talk to you about birds and more about birds. So we have with us today three very interesting speakers with lots and lots of birding experience. And in Telugu, we say bird medhavi, I would say. I don't know if I'm correct, but there are people these people, I think, breed, talk, everything birds. And maybe Ashwin has diverted a bit, maybe gone into looking for these eucalyptus weevil, which is something he discovered during the CNC. So maybe, I don't know, next time we will call him for an insect session. So let me introduce Ashwin Viswanathan. As Sriram a little while ago said that at least he's in the same plumage he has seen him last time. So Ashwin is a scientist at the Nature Conservation Foundation. He started his career as a mechanical engineer. So anybody who's a mechanical engineer, you can look at Ashwin as one of your role model. I guess even Raja, I think, is from the engineering background, and so is Sriram. And I am feeling a bit lost out as an ecologist over here, actually. So, but he has followed his passion for nature and become an ecologist. His early research focused on how plants, how rainforests work, including how birds help in spreading seeds and how plants interact with fungi and insects to maintain diversity, especially in fragmented forests. Over time, Ashwin has become deeply interested in how regular people can contribute to science. And that's where the whole concept of citizen science comes in today. It's a big thing in India now. Today, his work focuses on using citizen science to understand nature better and involve more people in conservation. He's an active member of India's birdwatching community and regularly connects with birdwatchers and birding groups across the different states. So thank you, Ashwin, for finding time to be with us today. We are very delighted to have you here today and hope we learn a lot from you. I'm sure all of us will. The second speaker we have today, and Pooja Pawar. She's a PhD student. Guys, you all need to wave your hands so they know where you are. Okay. So this is like, consider yourself in the spotlight, right? So Pooja Pawar is a PhD student, again, at the Nature Conservation Foundation. And you'll be happy to know that presently she is in Hyderabad, where she's a visiting student at the Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology, which I think in the Lacan's lab, right, Pooja? At the Lacan's, which is stands for Laboratory for Conservation of Endangered Species.
Yes.
Her research focuses on how bird communities respond to changes in urban environments, especially in rapidly growing cities. She is interested in understanding how different bird species survive, adapt, or disappear as cities expand. And I think those who participated last survey also, you have seen how the roller was found only in the outskirts of our Hyderabad city. So Pooja also was the project coordinator for the Pune Bird Atlas. And I'm sure her experiences will count a lot today for us in the session. This was, again, mapping the diversity of birds across the city of Pune. She's passionate about urban ecology, about birds, and making science more inclusive and community-driven. So Pooja, thank you for joining us, and we hope to hear a lot about you. I'm sure you'll get a lot of questions of Pune Bird Atlas because we've discussed this at length in our when we concluded our last survey in the month of Feb. And finally, we have another very passionate birder, my fellow colleague from WWF India, Rajshekar Bandi, as they call him, but he's called Raja. And he's a Raja for birds, of course, and is currently the coordinator for our Godavari landscape at WWF India. He has previously worked with ICAR Tirupati. I hope you all know what is ICAR, Indian Institute of Science, Education and Research. I hope that is correct, Raja. And also at the Nature Conservation Foundation. Wonder why we have all three from NCF the same backgrounds, but maybe that's the birding connect. Raja has played a key role in the Tirupati Bird Atlas, encouraging citizens' involvement in documenting birds in and around the city. His work focuses on the Eastern Ghats region of Andhra Pradesh, something which even I am extremely passionate about. I think this is one landscape which needs a lot more focus than it has been given. And especially his work considered around the Kawal Tiger Reserve, which is towards the Adilabad, northern Telangana, and in the Papikonda National Park. where he conducts biodiversity surveys and conservation research. Raja has led several strategic capacity building efforts in the region by promoting citizen science. He trains and engages people in using platforms like eBird and iNaturalist to record and share biodiversity observations. So welcome, Raja, and thank you. I know you are on extremely hectic travel all the time, but thank you for finding time to be with us. And finally, our main moderator of the day, I don't know where she is. Yes, there's Dr. Chitra Shanker. I think most of you must be knowing her, at least in Hyderabad. I don't need to introduce her, but still, since I've been given a paragraph, I must read it out. She is a principal scientist at the ICAR, Indian Institute of Rice Research in Hyderabad, majoring in agricultural entomology. So I think, Chitra, you can chat up with Ashwin and maybe make him the next insect specialist. Uh, she holds a PhD in agricultural entomology and has over 2 decades of experience in pest management, biodiversity, ecosystem services, and integrated pest management in rice systems. Again, a passionate birder since her school days. She's deeply involved in citizen science and conservation efforts. She actively participates in bird watching, dragonfly walks, butterfly count, and National Moth Week events. So thank you, Chitra, for joining. I hope you're not worried that your birders are eating up the insects, but we can talk about this interaction as well. So without much further ado, I will hand over the baton to you and you can take it forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Farida. As usual, you're amazing. So actually, to all the participants, we'll lead these panelists, those Ashwin, Pooja, and Raja, through their journey and then what had the atlas means to them. And we'll come to the serious part first. So let us just warm up first. My questions, should go, if it is to everybody, if it should go by alphabetical, it will go to Ashwin, but I'd rather start with Pooja, Ashwin, and then Raja. Okay. So first, Pooja, how did your birding journey start? What was the first bird like, or what brought you into this field? Can you tell something about that?
Yes, sure, Chitra. So I grew up in Pune, and we have many hills around Pune. So I did not start as a birder, or bird watching was not something that caught my interest first, but it was more like outings in the nature,
Nature.
and that led me to decide on what I want to do as academic training in. And after my 12th standard, I decided to join forestry college. Uh, and for that, I went to a very beautiful place called Dapoli. It's a coastal town
I
in
know.
Maharashtra,
Yes, beautiful.
and in an agriculture university. And that's where I think I was more out in the nature for like longer period, and there I started watching different birds and all. Again, I didn't know anything about them, so my first thing was to go to the library and try and find out a bird field guide and see, like, try to match what I saw. And
How
then
old are you, if I may ask? How old are you, if I may ask?
I am 32.
32. So you did have digital tools growing
Uh,
up.
Yes, but not in Dapoli. If I were in Pune, definitely I had access to much more digital tools and information. But Dapoli is a very small. It was back then. It was
Which was
even.
that bird which you thought, okay, now I am into birding?
Yeah, that was green bee eater,
Oh, wow.
and still
Are
it
you
is.
listening to this?
It's my favorite bird.
Okay, awesome. Ashwin, can we listen to your journey? I know it's very awesome. I'm still waiting to bird with you. Please.
Yeah,
Ashwin.
likewise. Next visit to Hyderabad, hopefully.
Yeah.
But it's been a long journey that didn't start with birds. I think, like many other people, my initial fascination was insects and various other uh, invertebrates maybe. And at a very early age, some of my memories of people who were around me back then was me catching cockroaches and dung beetles and various small organisms and handling them and playing with them. And that's what I think I did from maybe 2 to 5 or 6 years old. I think naturally, when I became a little more sentient, when I was about 5 or 6, I started noticing birds. And luckily, my mother was really, she noticed this and she immediately encouraged this hobby. Although she didn't know any bird watchers, but she found out about the pictorial Salim Ali guide back then and bought it for me. And somebody else got me binoculars. So I think from when I was 5 or 6 to maybe 17 or 18, I maybe met other bird watchers once or twice, aside from
Lucky,
my
lucky
mom and
guy.
me. And so it was a very personal hobby and it developed without any of the diligence that I know many of the Hyderabad birders especially have, where you took down notes, etc. Once in, I think, the maybe in 2001 or 2002, I visited Bharatpur, and there the guides asked me to take down notes. So I made some complete checklists. And then I was really excited when eBird came to be able to upload those old complete checklists, but then I'd lost the diary. So so that
Everybody
didn't
can't
help
be
sadly.
Ashish.
Yeah. But then I think slowly that progressed, but I didn't know about a career in ecology. So I did engineering like many people, and that was the advent of easily accessible computers and internet around that period. So with a little bit of looking around, I figured out there's a career, and then I moved in this direction. So
So, like Pooja, which was that bird which really clicked for you?
I don't think there was any
Anything
specific bird. It
special?
was just everything around me
Awesome, awesome.
back then. Yeah.
Can we listen to Raja now? Raja, can you just update on your personal journey?
Yeah. So I am, another mechanical engineer in this group here, along with Ashwin. So I switched my career probably 13 years ago. I took a break and then uh, I started volunteering for Project Tiger. I'm more interested in the science and tracks of large mammals. That's where I started. But being in Bangalore again, in those days, I used to go out with my brother uh, with the Bangalore bird walks. And I think Bangalore bird walks, I'm sure those bird walks have, influenced a lot of birders. So
Yeah.
there, I got introduced to birds. And in one of my first bird walk, I still remember, I think he's an 8 or 9 year old kid. He ran to me and said, "Uncle, watch that drongo." And I don't know what a drongo is. So I was like, I mean,
Okay.
a 9 year old kid was, telling a name and then, describing the tail and the white spot at the base of the bill. I was like, man, I don't know anything. And, this kid knows more than me. So this is where the curiosity started, and I started birding and all. And then I got into full-time career, and then like wherever I am, I started looking at birds in a completely different way. And I spent some time in Rajasthan again. Luckily, I spent some time in places which are very less explored, like, Indo-Pak border in Rajasthan in the Bikaner district, and then, Eastern Ghats in Andhra, and now currently Godavari landscape, where there's, less bird data. So again, I think that is pushing me a lot to explore, go out and find birds and collect more data. So even though I'm doing a lot of other things on the sidelines as a part of my profession, but birding is always there. So
It's
wherever
the
I go, I just
background.
watch birds. Yeah, thank you.
So which bird, like I asked both of them, did click for you? Or is it just the
Uh,
drongo?
no, yeah, I mean, drongo is something that clicked, but I love owls, like all owls, any owl, even the spotted
Um,
owlet, all owls. Yeah,
okay.
thank you.
So how do you think it has changed your life, budding? Because you've gotten into it recently, you've changed. So what do you think it has done to you?
So first thing is like tracking signs, mammals and all is, when you walk in a forest, we always used to look down, but now we started looking up. That's one major change.
That's a big
Uh,
problem.
yeah,
Look up or look down.
yeah. But in terms of abilities or the way we look at nature, I think I moved from the phase of watching and looking to observing. I found that there's a lot of difference between watching and observing. And by watching birds and all, I developed that skill of observing more rather than just looking at things around us. Not only birds, I think birds then introduced me to seasons, again the season watch, and then insects, a lot of other things, INAT. So whatever we do, I think the skill of observing is something that is very much important, which I developed through bird watching, and also questioning. Why is the tail like that? Why is the color like that? So I think questioning is another natural skill which everyone is required, irrespective of the profession. So I started questioning things, and also learning from everyone, from a 9-year-old kid to anyone. Don't hesitate to say I don't know and ask more questions. I think that openness to learn is something which I picked after
Exactly.
I started birding. Yeah, thank you.
So we'll come back to Pooja because you're special in this group. So did you face any challenges taking up this activity?
So
And
I think
how did you
first,
deal with them?
so I think I wouldn't call it a challenge, but some of the hurdles I would say, which were related, like first of them was having a person who knows birds or who can teach me birding. Otherwise, it was just me watching and not knowing what it is, or what am I doing is correct or not, or trying to take very basic notes which were not enough to know what
Oh.
it is. And so I think that was first.
So you always
And
had a group where you were birding. You always were in
no,
the group.
no. So when I started, there was no group. And then, as I mentioned, I first ran to library to find a field guide and to learn that the field guide was issued by some other person who was a staff in university. And so I went to that madam in admin building to know, like, can you give that book back because we need to see something. And to find out that she is a bird watcher and she was also doing it alone. So then that's how I found my birding buddy, and then we started going around the campus
Awesome,
and
awesome.
be more observant and share our sightings with each other. And I think that's how it started. So first challenge was that to know how to bird or have someone to talk about birds.
Birds, yeah.
And I think then it was much easier.
Yeah, okay. So with this background, can we go to a little serious talk? So let's little bit know about what you're contributing to Bird Atlas. What is the impact it's having? So why do you think, Ashwin, I think this question should go to you. Why do you think we should map this bird presence and distribution? Because you've been working on this field.
So I think there are many reasons. I think there are two parts to it. One is the journey of the mapping itself and what the mapping produces. So I think the journey is really nice as for a city, especially or for an urban space, where we often don't know or appreciate what we have around us. And we soon find out through these collective endeavors that there's a huge amount of biodiversity around us, even birds. And there are certain places that are richer in biodiversity than others within urban landscapes. And once we start appreciating these places, maybe our appreciation of public spaces will go up, general observation skills will go up. And I think it's a really nice public endeavor in cities. On the information side, atlases are systematic monitoring. So unlike a general citizen science, which is semi-structured, just bird watching and documenting things on eBird and iNaturalist, here there are protocols that are followed, which means it's very easy then to actually analyze the data and produce something meaningful that's useful for public um, bodies and any urban planners, where you can actually, with the entire area gridded into subcells as it is in Hyderabad as well, you can actually correlate different um, things like the amount of tree cover or the presence of a water body or the availability of bare ground or the amount of built up area with biodiversity, with bird diversity in
Yeah.
a fairly straightforward way. And that can be really useful information.
Yeah, true. So that leads to your question to you, Pooja. Do you think that really these citizens, whatever volunteers they are doing, will have an impact? Do you really think that all these observations which we are doing, because many of us do it, we think we are doing something.
Yeah, so I think definitely there are many observers, and what Atlas has helped us to do is bring that information together and try to look at that information that has been collected individually in a very systematic way to try and make sense of what is happening, what are the patterns, which is not possible for just one person or a group of people,
How
but
many
only
volunteered in Pune Atlas?
so we had over 200 volunteers over
But
5 years.
how many registered and how many volunteered?
So people, more than 250 people would have registered. At least they have joined for a couple of bird surveys, would definitely be over 150.
Okay.
And so just to uh, tell here the challenges that we were talking about. If we focus on Bird Atlas, at least for Pune Bird Atlas, when we started in January, February 2020, and we were all excited and ready to start, and COVID happened. So then, we were always in the dilemma: do we like ask people to not go out at all? Of course, we didn't, because Pune was a hotspot for a really long time. So, but still, people were quite enthusiastic, and they were birding from balcony terraces, or like still being participating. So I think there is, it just brought all these like-minded people together to produce some useful information. And I would still say it is just a baseline information. I'm sure there is much more to be done or to be understood from the, about birds in Pune city also.
Yeah, baseline is important for further studies.
Yes.
So
Yes.
do you think, like, again, continuation, Raja, do you think that at any point this has been used for legislation, for conservation policies? Have there been examples, or do you think it would really feed into it? Like in Hyderabad, we have this forest which was destroyed. We could have had a baseline earlier. So do you think really it feeds into it?
Yes, yes, of course. I can give you a couple of examples.
Please.
Say, yeah, the recently declared a conservation reserve in the Asifabad in the northern Telangana, just next to Kawal Tiger Reserve. I think this is the first PA that was officially declared after the formation of the Telangana state. We got a chance to contribute to the proposal, and that proposal has a lot of data from the State of India's birds and also the MINA report, highlighting all the species, including the species maps and all. So the data which was contributed from the citizens when they visited the Kawal landscape has contributed directly or indirectly to the declaration of the new conservation reserve in the state of the Telangana. I can give you that
So
example
the
clearly.
citizens' data you're saying, where was it drawn from?
It was done from the eBird. I mean, it was done from the State of India's birds portal, which was developed by, again, NCF. I think Ashwin, Praveen, and all, involved in it. So all these bird data contributed to the eBird is completely, analyzed and then presented in a nice format where you can download in the form of a report. It's called the MINA report. So we did a lot of trainings for all the DFOs on how to, use that MINA and the State of India's birds portal. And now in my last week meeting with the Mancherial DFO, he started using it on his own for his local monitoring and, local proposals. I think this is the change which we wanted to see.
Yes.
And one more is from Andhra. I can't tell you the location, but there was this SEZ proposal. And the environmental impact assessment was handed over to a private agency from Noida. And when the report came to the DFO, it says that there are only 14 species present in that particular area where the SEZ has to come. Luckily, that particular DFO, I have already introduced her to the MINA. So she asked me to run a MINA report, and then we ran. We got about 92 species. Out of them, 4 species are of conservation concern. So immediately she pulled down that report and then, give it back and then cancel that in SEZ, quoting that the EIA was not done in an appropriate manner, and the SEZ proposal was straight away rejected.
Awesome, awesome. This is so good to hear. I hope everybody who are listening to this understand the importance of what we are doing. So that brings us, like Raja also was saying that Bangalore bird walks were the ones which inspired him. But why not Bangalore Bird Atlas? What's happening there? Ashwin, what's happening there?
That's a very difficult question, and I think it's a very difficult question. So Bangalore birders are quite unique in that They are extremely enthusiastic, and there are a large number of Bangalore birdwatchers. I think must be one of the highest densities in the world, maybe now for urban areas.
Early
Really,
bird is based from out of there, right?
yes. Yeah, so lots of bird watchers in Bangalore, but I think Bangalore has this problem in every aspect, not just bird watching, of the inability to organize. People in Bangalore never don't know how to come together and do something. So we have a lot to learn from Hyderabad and Pune and many other cities where people have been able to come together, and hopefully we'll soon feel the pressure and do something.
I think if you go through one season, I'm sure even if you have 10, 15 participants, that will improve, I think. I feel that you should go about it in a bigger way.
True, maybe the secret is to just get it going.
Yeah, get it going, quick and dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah. So some now we'll come now that we have talked about Hyderabad birding atlas. We have birders here who are at different levels. So maybe we should talk about how to get to the birding aspect of it and how to record. Like you said, Ashwin, we are all not note keepers, but we do have now apps to do that. So everybody has got a unique way. What is your way, Ashwin, of identifying a bird? Like, for example, you're in a new area, you're going out and you're trying to identify. Do you use your ears, your eyes, your scope? What is that?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I think so. I'll start off with a slightly different point here. In that, I think a large proportion you've won the battle to a large extent if you're aware of what is expected in different places. So I think that just a good understanding of probabilities. So, for example, now with all the resources we have at our disposal, we can all find out what birds are there in Hyderabad. So the moment we are aware of the birds that are there in Hyderabad, we don't have to look beyond the birds that are there in Hyderabad. And similarly, we have finer levels of resolution, even with habitats, try and make these associations with birds that live in wooded areas and birds that live in open areas. And with that, we keep narrowing the number of possibilities lower and lower. And then things become easier. So now when I'm trying to identify a raptor, raptors are really difficult to identify. Now, when I try to identify a raptor in Hyderabad, I don't have to look at all the raptors that are present in the country. I have a small set of raptors that are likely in that season. Now, in the monsoon, all the migratory ones are not going to be there, like Eurasian sparrowhawk and steppe eagle, kestrels. I think maybe the kestrels even now, but that's for the okay. Can strike that off the record. But But anyway, migratory raptors to Hyderabad can be excluded. So that I think is the first step. Beyond that, it's keeping every sense open and active. And I think birdwatching also allows us to be much more alert than I think the average non-bird watcher, where our eyes are always open, ears are always open. We're constantly looking for signs around us and trying to make sense of that. So I think that's just a matter of practice. Always useful to have binoculars, a camera, various things that make this process a little easier.
What proportion is done by your ear?
Uh, once I think once a birdwatcher has sufficient experience, it's almost 100%, I would say. So which is why it's possible nowadays to maybe make a bird list while watching tiger beetles. So, there's
Yeah, true, very true.
But I
Yeah.
think that's a slow process. And even for me, at some point in my birding journey, it suddenly clicked. Before that, I was finding earbirding really difficult. And if anybody has played the guitar, I don't really play the guitar, but at some point it became easier to play something basic and also sing. And that transition, when suddenly something that became possible, like even identifying plants for me. At one point, all leaves look the same, and suddenly there is that shift. Like suddenly it all makes sense. And bird sounds are like that. Suddenly it'll all make sense, and then you're on a nice
But
journey.
still, then you have the OMR, which will make different calls.
Yes.
So, Pooja, what is your go-to? You mean, what do you go by scope? Do you do camera recording, or what is your way of doing it? Identification.
So I think a good pair of binoculars and just being present, like try and listen to birds and see is my first. first way to do bird watching. And also nowadays camera, and I think many, like, it's when it's a group, it's easier, so that people can have
Especially for
multiple.
warblers. And then
Yes.
pester Ashwin for
Yes,
an idea.
yes. And I completely agree to Ashwin that like until you get attuned to listening to birds, it sounds very difficult maybe to this thing. So for me, I mean, when I started, for me it was like seeing is bird watching. If I don't see it, then I don't know what it was.
Oh, yes.
But only when I went to rainforest, where it was seeing itself was difficult, then only I think I got used to paying attention to the call, paying attention to the variation between calls of even same species. And also, yeah, I think just listening and good pair of binoculars and taking notes. I do take a lot of notes of what I see. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And depend on others in the group for all digital help.
Okay. So Raja, what is your go-to, the way you do it? And do you bird in forests or do you bird in urban areas or both? Which do you think is the best place, for birding?
Yeah, I think there is no place as such like a best place. The lucky part is like birds are everywhere. Wherever you go, you will see birds. You go to shoreline, you go to forest, you go to wetlands, you go to, I mean, you sit in the urban areas and all. I think there are birds everywhere. So this is the joy of birding. And normally I use a binocs and I carry a point and shoot camera. I mean, normally if I see something, some kind of odd behavior, or probably some kind of interesting pattern or something like that, or calls, I want to take videos because I am more interested in sharing the joy and educating kids and people. So I think documentation is very important. Probably I don't have that much patience to take notes, but I carry a point and shoot camera just to take videos. So I have a large video repository, and even I shared a lot of videos with early bird team as well, which can be used for the nature education purpose to connect kids or adults to the nature. That is very important. That's what I do. And yeah, forest birds, wetland. I think yeah, wetland birds are amazing, to watch because it is very easy. You can actually sit at a place. You don't have
Very
to walk
easy.
around. I mean, you can spend a lot of time on observing and the behavior and all. I mean, when I say easy, like at one place using a scope or a binocs, you can sit nicely and spend a lot of time on observing the details and what they're doing, and also counting the numbers as well.
So is it the same for both of you too? Arboreal birds or water birds? Pooja and
No
Ashwin?
water birds for me. I don't think I can I can easily identify them, or I think it takes more patience to sit down and observe water birds than the canopy birds.
Exactly. Canopy birds are like treasure hunt. What about you, Ashwin?
Terrestrial birds for me too. Prefer.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when I introduce new people to birds, it's typically water birds because you can watch them. Some of them have lovely colors like painted storks. Great things to for people to initially find that joy with, I think.
So for all of you, there's one question from my side is like, what do you think of the new generation of birders who are using the Merlin app Sound ID for identifying the birds? What do you think of that? It's out of curiosity. I want to know what is your take on it.
Yeah, it's okay to use Merlin, especially for the starters. I think not only birds, for any biodiversity where people want to connect, I think the curiosity is the main factor. So in order to create that curiosity within people, I think we can rely on many tools. I think, and Merlin is one of the tools. So imagine, I mean, we did a lot of trainings for the forest guards, and when we take them into the forest, as Ashwin mentioned, in an open patch it's very easy to show birds, but when you're walking through a forest it's very tough to show the canopy birds. So one of these curiosity generating activity we show them is open the Merlin and then quietly stand there, and it will keep on recording some 6-7 species, and they will get really surprised. Very recently in the Kawal bird survey, one of the forest guards said when we started the transect, I asked him an open question like, how many species do you think are here around you are listening to? He said 2 or 3. I took him some 50 meters ahead, started Merlin, and we stood there for about 12-13 minutes. It recorded about 14 species. He got really surprised,
Christ,
right?
that's
Then the curiosity will
yeah,
stir
that's
in.
true. That's true. It's a
Yeah,
primer for people
yeah.
to get interested in.
So I think the technology and the tools are always there. I think it's all about how we apply it and where we apply it and what purpose we are applying for it. I think that makes a lot of difference.
So that leads to your question, Ashwin. What do you think as a bird watcher, if somebody is just getting into this hobby or a serious bird watching, what are the tools they have to equip themselves with to go? Like Pooja was saying, she was looking for a book. So in this era, you can't carry those books. You tell what is it that they should be equipped with?
I think nowadays with I think both smartphones being able to take photos and many people having cameras, I think cameras are an amazing tool to bridge that initial gap of teaching of going past that initial step of identifying birds around you or the common birds around you, because we also have so many groups where people can support with identification, whether
And
it's WhatsApp or Facebook. And once that initial, like Raja said, it's just about that initial fascination and engagement with nature. I think when that journey starts, and there is some way, whether it is Merlin with calls or whether it's photos with feedback from somebody, I think uploading bird photos to iNaturalist right at the start, if you're just getting into it or becoming curious, I think that's a great way to get that feedback, start learning. And then after that, nowadays, tools like eBird, I think allow the next step after that initial curiosity is built and we have learned a little bit about birds, that progression to becoming an experienced bird watcher or becoming familiar with things around you. I think making checklists is really useful because it immediately puts you on the spot. Every checklist, you have to be careful about what you report. And that, I think that process every time of cross-checking what you're seeing, trying to identify it, trying to be sure, I think that's a really fast, makes for a fast learning curve, which we didn't have back in the day. We learned really slowly
very true.
because if we saw a wobbler and we couldn't identify it, it didn't get identified for years. And I think for about 15 years of my life, I didn't look at wobblers at all. So, so that can't be done anymore.
Yeah, true that, true that. So
Yeah. So I also look at these apps or these digital tools as a very good way for prolonged engagement. Like even outside birding session, I can still go back to it and still try and engage with birding, or it's very easy tool to do homework. If I'm planning a visit somewhere, I think it's easier to go through these and get some information on what is likely to be seen or what has been reported recently, or even if I have a doubt about identification, species identification. Maybe my quick go would be to take a look at photos uploaded on these apps by other people and see if anything matches, or also distinguish between like similar looking species. So I think it's just it- these apps are making birding or bird watching more engaging and also participatory. I feel there are many more people using it, so you may have more people to go to, ask your queries to, and get some answers also.
feel connected with me. So how do you think that eBird has changed your birding and how it is impacting bird watching? Like you were saying, you can do the checklist. Do you also go and look at illustrated checklists, recent checklists? How do you think it is changing the birding uh, right now? eBird.
eBird, I think the way I look at it, it's about having real-time information, because people are, updating or uploading checklists as they see it. Also, it's very useful for me to keep count of what I have seen or what, what all places I have been to. So I think it's a good, very handy tool to even track your own birding. And as simple as, oh, last year I did not see this bird on this campus, but this year I'm seeing it. So I think those are easy, or some moments like these also keep my data or my bird watching in the past very handy to me,
Yes,
is
yes.
what I feel.
You can filter it out and you can see, right?
Yes.
Ashwin, so
Yes.
what do you think, Ashwin, is how it has contributed to the increasing citizen science or boosting citizen science or bringing more people into this field? What do you think eBird has role is? Or is are they coming only because they want to take photographs and get Facebook likes, or are they coming because eBird is bringing them in?
So I think eBird has been designed really, really well. It's been designed not just as a platform that can have this kind of real-time knowledge that is useful, like Pooja said, but also it allows birding to be gamified to an extent. And I think that's really important for a successful tool like this, where many of us here may not be really into the gamification, but I am, for example, in my local patch over here. I really want more species for GKVK, this place next to me, and all of us together. It's almost a collective thing where we all get really excited when there's a new bird added to
New bird
GKVK,
in your patch.
and that we can all track. So this mechanism to track and have these small games around different places and different birding journeys, I think is really
True,
useful.
true, true. Very true, very true.
But also one more thing with so I think the idea of contributing to something greater, I think that also really excites people. And before eBird, there was Migrant Watch. I think some people here may have participated in Migrant Watch, and I was in college at that point, and that was a completely new thing then. And until then, there's only Yahoo groups and there's AWC, but the possibility of being part of a collective was
Collective.
not really there. And the moment that came out, it was really exciting for me that I could report a rosy starling or a grey wagtail or when it arrived or left, and that, and then to look at something after that, to look at arrival and departure times based on everybody's contributions. I think that's really fantastic, and that feedback I think is very, very exciting.
Yeah, very true. But like earlier also I asked and Raja was giving that Merlin is very good. So but I'm sure there are some drawbacks to Merlin. What do you think are the cons of using the Merlin app?
So I think many of these tools have pros and cons, like you're saying.
I know. Of
Uh,
course, we
but
all know.
but I think the thing is that these tools, once they are there, are there to stay, and we have to find the best way to use it that we can. And I think as educators, for many people in this call and many others, the idea is to try and get people to use it in a better and better way going forward. So, for example, Merlin can also slow down the process of learning. If people are mostly interested only in documentation and you're going entirely through Merlin, you're not verifying, you don't get into the habit of going and finding the bird that's making that sound and making that association between the bird
True.
and the
True. Yeah.
sound. So
Yeah.
there are many gaps in learning that develop through that. So I think the idea is that Merlin can be a really good learning tool if people are also led along this path. Say that when you're hearing things, when Merlin is telling you something, go and find out
Go
what
and
that
find
is.
out what it is.
And
Yeah.
I think just that link can make Merlin a much more effective tool.
More effective tool. Yeah.
Maybe
totally
Ashwin, you
agree.
can elaborate on the chat, the question that you just spoke about the calls.
Okay, okay. So, a controversial topic, bird calls, and maybe Chitra, do you think I should take it now or should I take it later?
No, please, you feel free to talk. See,
Okay, okay.
go along with the discussion.
Yeah. So, like I think, like Merlin, like we have been discussing tools, I think playback is another tool in birdwatching that has pros and cons. And I think this has been widely debated about whether the pros outweigh the cons or the cons are so high that the pros are not pro enough. So I think I think the main point here with whether it's Merlin or playback or photography, I think is a point that Raja made, is that it is another way of engaging with nature. If the tool is allowing you to get close to nature in some way to build that appreciation, to build that joy, then it is maybe worth exploring further. So I think one thing that I really like with playback, so I do use playback at times, and I think when there's especially with people who struggle to see birds otherwise, which is often family members, if I'm with my parents, and for them, if I'm showing them something, even a Tickle's blue flycatcher, it takes them, it's almost impossible to find, and something we forget as birders, that how easy it is for us to pick a point and how difficult it is for the general public to actually pick a point, and to bring something so beautiful into people's eyes, I think makes a huge difference. It just completely blows the mind. And I think that is a major pro. But again, like we discussed with Merlin, there are cons here too. There is a severe lack of research of what happens with playback, especially when used in large quantities, when there are big populations exposed to playback repeatedly for weeks and months and years. What really happens to them? And I think that is a major research gap that we need to fill. At the moment, we don't have evidence that there is any population level impact, but there might be, and we really have a lack of research there. So I think that especially for the researchers out here, we really should be finding out more about this. And in the meanwhile, I think this is about most things in life, I feel that unless we're very obviously impacting humans around us, I think people should have the ability to make mistakes and learn. And I feel that even with something like playback, that if you find you let's say you have a bird at home, you're trying to show it to somebody, and then you find out that it's not responding after a day or two of calling it out. And I think that feedback allows people to learn to say that, okay, I like birds and I'm concerned about them, I'm worried about them, which is why I'm doing this, which is why I'm engaging with nature at all. And if I feel that I'm impacting something around me, then I should have the ability to take that decision and stop and say that, okay, this is where I'm going to keep this under control. I'm going to moderate this. And I think individuals should have should be able to, should have the freedom to make these choices and to have their own learning curves in coming to these decisions. I think the same thing with handling, the same thing with walking on in forest paths, and I tend to avoid that a little bit now if I'm in a very dense area, especially sometimes of the year. You're pushing a lot of things away, you're disturbing a lot of life, and maybe sticking to a trail is a lot better than pushing getting into the bush. And I think that is something that I've had the freedom to learn myself, and I think we should all have that freedom to learn and do the best that we can individually for life around us.
The biggest con is that because it's very commercial now, and yeah.
Yeah, but again, a pro there is that so many more people are being introduced to
Pulled
nature.
into it.
So
I like your
always,
approach, Ashwin. I love your approach. Yeah. So actually, I wanted to talk more about notes. And of all three of you, I think Pooja was the one who said she took notes. So Ashwin, do you take notes? Raja, you take notes?
No, I don't take notes, but I list down my observations in very detail on the eBird checklist. Whatever I see, whatever I observe.
Okay, so
same as
you can
Raja.
talk about a little bit about what should be done on eBird for doing the behavioral notes, and maybe Pooja can talk about how we do it in writing. So Raja, can you just elaborate on what you see and then what you note down? So many people get confused with so many,
Yeah.
tags for the behavior in eBird.
No, it is very, I think by spending some time looking at what the bird is doing, I think everyone can figure out, say, for example, if you have a question or if you don't understand something related to the action being done by a bird, I think you should make a note of it. I mean, when I say note, it's not a physical note on a pen and paper. You should include it in the eBird, because what we don't understand or know could be something of great importance to some other person who is doing a research on that particular behavior. So when we don't know something, it's better to make a note of it and include that notes in the eBird. I think the eBird checklist is amazing. It has all the breeding codes and a lot of other options which you can include. So on the top of it, if you can add the behavioral related notes and all these things, or the numbers, or if you estimate a count, how did you approach your count? Because everyone has their own way of counting birds, and there is no standard your protocol. So your protocol or the way you count birds could be a more efficient way. So if you document and share with other birders, I think it will be a great contribution, because I know some birders who just learn IDing birds by looking at the eBird checklist, your photos. They spend 1 or 2 hours every day or a week just going through the eBird checklist and the photos to learn the IDs. So there are people like that. So that way again, I want to add to Pooja's and Ashwin's comments about eBird checklist. I think the media edition, and also the very recently the landscape images or the habitat images edition is a great contribution where people can learn a lot from the eBird checklist. Thank you.
And there would be a baseline again, like Pooja was saying, we'll have a baseline again. Yeah, that's awesome. I saw your thing. We'll come to that question again in the end, Ashwin. I saw your thing in the chat box. So what do you think, like, what is the future of bird watching in India? What do you think, where we are going in bird watching as citizen science, as a hobby, as serious science? Ashwin, can you take this question?
Yeah, sure. So I think India is very advanced in its birdwatching culture. And I think that's through the efforts of so many regional groups. I think we've also had a really healthy ornithology history, and I think that's helped us in I think in silos. Many different parts of the country have had really long ornithological histories, and now we are at a state where there are so many bird watchers, and we're really growing at an exponential rate. So much so that we are one of very few countries that are able to actually look at state of India's birds, for example, from citizen science data. We have we have data for a long enough period, and we have enough coverage, and we have so many people getting more and more engaged in birds and bird watching. So I think we're on a really, really nice trajectory. But of course, on the other hand, we are also like most of the world, it's all in the context of declines. And maybe this is the right time for such a boom in bird watching. And
Yes, it's very, very nice.
Mm.
Very well put that. What do you think, Raja, is the driving force right now for bird watching and where we are going? What is that?
Yeah. I think we are, lucky to be in a generation where we are seeing I think a big shift in the bird watching, where people used to start with only binocs and then the cameras, and then we have Merlin, eBird, and State of India birds, Myna. So
Yes, I
yeah,
did.
so yeah. So I think this is a great evolution. But if you look at uh, I think all these technologies and everything are starting at one level, where I think most of us in the towns and cities are not tier two cities are taking forward, and we are getting excited. But again, I think but there is still the gap between the science community and the citizens who are in the villages. I think mainly the school children and our education system and all. I think learning birding and then understanding birding and exploring all these technology tools is very important. But I think each one of us should actually turn around and look at the communities which are completely distanced from this nature education, and whatever we are learning, I think we should find ways to share these kind of learnings with school children or government school teachers, where there is more scope for them to learn and explore outside other than in the cities and the towns. I think this is where all of us, I mean, even though if we can't go back to city, villages and all these schools, at least we can start with our family members. I think the change should start from the family. If we can connect some of our family members to the nature, I think that's a big contribution. But we should all look at filling that gap between the education system and the science community, or these resources that are available. I think this is where we can make a larger difference beyond what we are doing now.
That's very true, very true. Pooja, you are in science and research. What do you think is the future in bird watching from the scientific point of view?
Yeah. Yes, so being someone who uses this information to understand, birds better, I feel we are in a very good phase where more ears and more eyes out in the field and generating more information. So definitely, I think that is very helpful. And of course, be it bird atlases or State of India's bird reports, we are trying to that is helping us understand our birds better, our spaces better, habitats, and in many ways, not different aspects of bird ecology, and it's informing conservation. So it's definitely a very good phase. But at the same time, and of course, with advancement in technology, we are headed at very different pace. For good, I would like to believe, but also this experience of birding itself, or initiating that curiosity and just being out in the being out and watching, like this, just the joy of watching bird, other than documentation or that engagement, is also equally important, I feel. And many initiatives, like be it Hyderabad bird walks, or be it many other bird races that people are doing, or all these small walks that are happening everywhere, they're, I think, introducing people, or many people at different ages also. So I think it's building much stronger birding community across
Very true.
the places. And what has helped us with this technology is reach those remote locations, as Raja was mentioning. Now we are able to find these important bird areas, identify people, train them so that they start documenting, they start using it. Many people are also trying to use it to earn their livelihoods, being bird guides or nature guides. So I think it's a very good phase that we are in, and I'm quite optimistic about birding community.
Also getting women guides in some of the places, tribal areas.
Yes.
Yes, gender
Yes.
equality. That was an awesome discussion we all had. What we did not touch upon, it was not there in the list, is wildlife caring and conservation. When people go out bird watching and find maybe injured birds, or whether chicks or something like that, what should they do? Why are we not having a network of wildlife carers like other countries have? Maybe this is food for thought. Maybe Sriram will ask other questions. So, because a lot of people have been asking, and Ashwin is waiting to answer one of them, I know. Yeah, Sriram, over to you now. It was
Yes.
awesome having a discussion with all three of you.
Yeah, it was a fantastic discussion actually. Yeah, there are few questions, Ashwin. Yeah, but I also request volunteers, if you have any question, you can raise your hand. We'll unmute you. You can ask question directly. But in the meantime, Ashwin, there is a question on bird feeders. You want to touch upon that, like setting up a bird feeder? Is it good or bad?
Yeah, maybe either Pooja or Raja, maybe you could take the rescue question. I can answer this after that. I mean, what to do if.
Yeah, I think these days there are a lot of guidelines in terms of what to do. I think there is a workshop coming up, so an online talk coming up very soon by the rescuers and all. I think there's a lot of information on how to deal with it and what to deal with it. So that is one answer. And coming to the other part of the question, I think. Wildlife conservation is all about charismatic species still in some of the landscapes in the country, especially large mammals and all, and we don't still have the infrastructure to rescue and rehabilitate or support bird species. So, for example, I when during COVID, when I used to live in Vijayawada, there was an incident of a spotted owlet we found stuck in a fishnet during birding, and I had to drive 200 kilometers to take it to a vet. So, it is very terrible in terms of the infrastructure and the support in terms of the rescues and all. And we don't have anyone supporting in some of these landscapes. I mean, I'm not yet generalizing, but I think there are, like in the states of Maharashtra and all, there is an excellent network where people can, immediately rescue and all. But I think it's a matter of time. The more of the birders and the birding community prosper, and we started putting out data, we started working with the local forest department, and influence them. I think the change will come, but it takes some time. This rescuing and all is never a mainstream so far. In our country, in many states, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yeah, that is true. Actually, we should have a system. I think like some countries have, they have government approved wildlife carers who are trained for this. Maybe we should think about this in future. So yes, Sriram.
Yeah.
Ashwin, your
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, thanks, Raja. Okay. So feeders, another topic that actually hasn't had much discussion in India at all. We haven't really gone deep into this issue. So in places like the US, I think keeping feeders is very, very normal. I think one of the previous reports by US Fish and Wildlife Service estimated 96 million bird watchers in the US at the moment. We have a much larger population, but we're really far from that. And one of the reasons people speculate has created so many bird watchers in the US is that people have household feeders.
Oh,
So everybody gets to see
see the
bird life around them and engage with them. They also think of ways to, like bring more there, look at which feeders would be best in the market to have most birds come in. They have nectar feeders and they have seeds. They have various kinds of feeders. Birds come in, so that is one way for people to actually engage with birds. So in that aspect, I think feeders can be really useful. But also maintaining feeders comes with its share of cons. The most important of which are there is the potential for some spread of diseases, which has happened as well. So in the US, there is a mature enough birding population at the moment that if a certain area is seeing an incidence of a disease, there's also that monitoring. There is a general call put out to people to stop keeping feeders for that period of time, or a certain kind of feed so that a certain bird doesn't come in that appears to be facing some kind of pressure from an imminent disease or some possible infection. So we don't know about any of that over here. But I think again it is another situation with pros and cons, and if we can keep pigeons and squirrels and cats away, then it is possible that this kind of provisioning will help certain species remain in urban environments as well. So it's interesting. I think generally building appreciation today for nature is maybe more important than the smaller impacts, because impacts are happening at a really large scale. And if we want a local water body or some important area around us to be protected, even trees that are being cut, then we really really need collective action. And at the moment, 1% of the or whatever 0.1% of the population caring about birds just doesn't work. So if feeders can be a tool that helps people care more about birds in India, then I think it's something we should explore, not forgetting about all the potential consequences, negative consequences.
maybe we should add water baths also along with that. Feeders and water baths.
Feeders and water baths. So something we have a water bath at home. Not many birds use it. It's not a very well kept water bath. But something that we sometimes put out, we have compost, and it's full of soldier fly larvae. And birds love soldier fly larvae. So sometimes it's fun for us also when we're getting a new batch of compost out and putting it in the garden. We just keep the soldier fly larvae out there. And it's the only time that we have pied bush chats and other birds coming home and feeling a little happy. So it makes us also happy.
Yeah. Okay. Sriram?
Yeah, Ashwin or anybody actually. Now, in the last 10-15 years, right, a lot has been changed in the birding community. So let's say this all the tools, eBird, Merlin, all these are completely new. I think the way we are birding has completely changed. So are we expecting, is it going to change further by looking at AI and other things which are going to come? So how you are seeing that birding is going to transform in the next maybe 10 years, 15, 20 years? Is it going to change drastically? Photography is going to stop? Something else is going to come?
Does anyone want to take this?
I really don't know. I don't have an answer to this.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah, that's a good question. I think I don't think anything will saturate, but everything will evolve over a period of time. So, say for example, we got these binocs which can ID the birds automatically and all, but we don't know the efficiency of it. So there might be a lot of other things coming up, but I think this is where as a community. Like Hyderabad Bird Atlas data and all, you need to take a step back and see. You need to allocate some kind of dedicated time on how to bring the rest of the community to the birding and the technology as well. I think the technology will keep on evolving. That's for sure, but we need to work on bridging the gap as well. I mean, this is my comment on it. I can't say much about anything about it at this point of time.
Yeah, I think I echo what the others have said. It's very hard to know how this trajectory is, where this is going to go, because especially with passive recorders
Yeah.
and various ways to
Mhm.
document birds in the absence of people, I think the way we document birds is going to change. But
Yeah.
I think passive recorders and other such tools are going to supplement what we're doing as public monitoring rather than replace it. I think we are very far from a place where
Mm.
AI can replace human birding because it's far too complex at the moment.
Exactly.
It's far too
and
complex.
and
Far too
and
complex.
yeah, and also I think people's behavior is also changing. Like now people's patience is not beyond a 2 minute short reel or a video, right? So like earlier we used to sit patiently and watch an a 10-minute video or a documentary about a species or the conservation, and now people don't have that kind of patience and all. I think most of the new generation, so this could be a challenge as well. I think it might increase the gap between the next generation and understanding of the nature, and we need to carefully evaluate and think about it, how to ensure that this gap is not widening more.
Yeah.
uh, Otherwise I think conservation of the species and habitats is going to be a big challenge in future.
Okay. So there is one more thing, Ashwin. Let's say that Ashish Pitti has shown one picture where in middle of Hyderabad city we used to see a lot of vultures. Okay. Now when I started my bird watching, we used to see some raptors in and around Hyderabad. Now to see a raptor, it is extremely difficult now in this case situation. Let's say after now still we are birding because there are still birds which we could able to go and see and
except
everything.
black kites.
Yeah, except blackheads. Let's say that are we expecting something like after 20 years, the urbanization is so much that it's extremely difficult and it becomes bird watching is will not be like this, will be something else. Like you're watching something like a movie or something like that instead of watching physically.
I think again, wonderful question. The trajectories we're going at, we are losing birds at a really fast rate. But I think it's all proportional to what we have.
Mm,
So the absolute amount of loss is going to keep slowing down. So
mm,
I don't think we're going to lose. I mean, things like the vulture catastrophe. I don't think such catastrophes happen too often. It's possible that something like that will happen, but as birders, we seem to be able to adapt to enjoy whatever we have in front of us. Everybody tells us that things were much better back in the day, but I can't think of my bird watching at the moment being any more enjoyable than it really is at the moment.
it is
Exactly.
So it's
right. Yeah.
we keep this is I see
I
that with my dog also. As he becomes older and older, he can barely see or hear anything, but he doesn't know it. He still enjoys life, I think. And
Great. Yeah. So anybody has any questions you want to ask? Feel free.
I have one experience to share. I mean, I request whoever goes out for not just birding, nature walks, accompany kids and try to share your knowledge with the kids. And the
Yeah.
questions they're going to come back with, I think some of these questions will push you to go back and find answers, and they will open doors for more learning. So this is what I experienced. I think some of the questions that comes from the kids. I mean, because we start our thinking and all at one level, and we don't look beyond that. But kids ask some basic questions which we overlook, and this is where our understanding starts. So I think spending time with kids is also an amazing thing.
So when it says kids, actually, even I feel a 50-year-old who is completely new to bird watching is a kid, because the questions they ask, right? 50-year-old or 20-year-old, the experienced bird watchers, they have their own perspective of watching birds. Suddenly, a new person who has no knowledge about birds will teach you something which actually puts a doubts on the experienced bird watchers, and they go back to the books and start reading that. So kid is could be a younger one or could be any person who started the journey. I always treat them as kids. Sometimes the kids in our group, the HBA group, are much more able to identify much better than the new ones. So I have one question, Ashwin, and to Raja, because Ashwin
Sorry,
is from a
Sriram, to
region.
interrupt. On the point of kids and asking questions,
Hmm.
during this bird feeder and other things, my kid just asked me a question which felt very interesting for me itself. He asked, "Are chocolates dangerous for birds? Can we feed
Oh,
birds chocolates?" And I was like, "What? We can't even think an angle of how these kids can think of."
Amazing, amazing
Extra
question.
sugar is bad for everything.
yeah, everybody, even for him. Yeah. So Ashwin, you came from, I mean, you are from a region where, at least in India, right, the protection from the government, from the scientific community, there are a lot of things happening in the Western Ghats region in Karnataka and Kerala and these regions, even Tamil Nadu, to be. I mean, a lot of research activities happen from your region, whereas when it comes to our places, let's say especially from Telangana, so we lack a lot when compared to the other things. But now Raja, at least the few of the things I remember was Raja was doing something in Kawal, Papikonda, and some kind of stuff, which is not when compared with other things, what is happening in your place, right? So where exactly we are lacking as a state? Is it like
I think Hyderabad is quite far advanced.
not Hyderabad?
Yeah.
Not,
But actually, this is a gap even in Karnataka. So Karnataka, aside from Bangalore and Mysore, has very little going on, really. There's little bit in the Ghats. I think Pooja has also done some work in the Karnataka Ghats. But aside from the Ghats, there's not much going on in the arid plains. And Kerala, of course, is a completely different organism, and yeah, they behave differently. They have a different history, and the way things work there are completely different. But I think with Raja's focus on the Eastern Ghats and IISER is coming up, IISER Tirupati being so active in Andhra, I think that the Eastern Ghats landscape, even I think a lot of focus from bird watchers, I think there's going to be some fast progress there. There's nothing much that is, I think, at the moment, I see similar trajectories everywhere except Kerala, Hyderabad, Bangalore, and these places. And at least you're doing an atlas, and we, we're not there yet.
I still believe that the gap is due to like the socio-economical history of the landscapes. Being the Northern Eastern Ghats ignored, like the agency was ignored for long time, and also Telangana was under a different regime. So we are still coming out of the impact of the history. And I'm glad that the community came together, and we have HBP, Deccan Birders, and all these communities coming together and then taking these kind of initiatives. I think it's just a matter of time. We're going to bounce back.
Yeah, and I would also like to add that now more active efforts in generating information in regional languages is people are taking it seriously, reaching out to the groups that otherwise wouldn't have been uh, our first go-to people, or sites as well. So I think there are a lot of efforts happening, and we also see very good participation from different parts and from different groups in the society as well. So I think we are at the beginning of that stage, and it is likely to improve in future.
So to add to that, one gap that we have, I think, to go down the trajectory that Pooja just discussed is language, and we still don't have many resources in various local languages, and there is always a so I think in Malayalam there have always been good resources. I mean, for a really long time, so that's really helped the community grow much faster than in other places. So I think when we have good resources coming up, all the apps and Merlin and everything coming up in various languages, the uptake will increase and there'll be, I think, quick growth across the country. But I think that's a big gap now.
Just want to add one last line to all these things, which I strongly believe in. I strongly believe that each and everyone has a naturalist inside us. I think we just need the right experience. The experiences that can be provided by interactions during bird walks, nature walks, or bird atlases and all these things. I think as long as these opportunities keep on coming and more people are joining and experience these things, I think the inner naturalist will come out and we will see more data and more changes.
Thank you so much, all of you, for patiently answering my questions, and also thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to discuss all this with you all. It was great waiting to bird with all of you.
Yeah, Ashwin, one last question probably before you go. I mean, you've seen the question in the panel, right? What is the bird status in Merlin when it says uncommon or rare? What does it mean in terms of population and conservation?
So that I think there is nothing that should be inferred about their population or conservation status based on whether it is uncommon or rare, the yellow dot or the red dot. That talks about something very, very local. It's just within a 20-kilometer radius. Take it as a guide, but not as a guide about how common it is in that area, but not about its conservation status. And
it means that nobody has reported from that region.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, so you might have a certain bird, even a common bird. House sparrow is unreported in around my house, and it's always been or infrequent. But around the country, it's doing great, or that's what State of India's Birds says. But thanks, Chitra, for the lovely moderation. I think this was one of the best moderated sessions I've been in. It was fantastic. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Looking forward to bird with you very soon.
I'm going to pick you up. Don't worry.
Yes.
Thanks.
So
Yeah, thanks
before
everyone.
before panel goes, I think Praveen has a question. Praveen, you have any question? If you have, I'll unmute you.
Yes, good evening, Praveen here.
Yeah. Please ask your question.
It is, yeah. So I've been living in an organization called Pragati Resort from 2002 to 2018, along as a horticulturist. From a scratch to nearly 650 species of plants we have established over a period of, say, 20-25 years. So even though I'm not a very high-end bird watcher, but it all started during my college days when Salim Ali expired. That's why I got into that. But I have seen the way we have developed a barren land into a green. So much of species have came into limelight. So that is how I could able to identify some of the birds. And now we are all trying to get some data and to conserve our habitat, because most of the time I read is all human centric. Whatever we compare with not even birds, other animals, like you are putting animals in zoo rather than providing them a natural habitat. So this is where the big gap comes in. So there are few children, very few children who are against that, but they are unable to speak out. Recently, I was in touch with one of the great person, Kummi Naidu from South Africa. I think Farada Madam knows him. Am I right? Kummi Naidu. He was a Greenpeace activist. So what I am trying to understand is whatever the data we are collecting, which has to go into the concerned administrative things or whatever. So whenever we are making an urban thing, at least we should have some space for nature, not even birds, all the whatever available earlier, at least which we could recently we have seen in Hyderabad University. All of us were doing that. So this data which we are collecting in Hyderabad or wherever, which has to go into the people and try to minimize the damage for the nature. Is it possible?
That is what we are planning to do, Praveen. I thought you were asking a question, but yeah, whatever exercise we are doing, we are answering.
Yes.
We are planning, trying to answer through our class, Praveen.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So what
That's
I found, that's what which has to reach the university students are participating, but in a lower level, like in the discussion also we were talking about reaching out the village high schools or government schools. So which will give us more strength to reach our goal. That's what my suggestion is.
Thank you, Praveen. Yeah.
Yeah, and one more thing, like what Pune bird, what she's doing, the writing habit also is a very excellent thing, because once you write, it will be impressed in your brain, and that's a great thing. And one more thing I can suggest, what you are given the booklet, which is so helpful for bird identification. The first session, you have distributed a small booklet which is handy, so that that also has to be given
Birds
to
of
the
Telangana.
new. Yes,
Birds
yes,
of Telangana book, right? Yeah.
exactly. So in a very small booklet, you could able to include all the beautiful photographs and the category of birds. Like so, that also I would like to suggest for the coming
Yes.
new members, and
Praveen,
not even for members, for
yeah.
the other community who are going to do this bird atlas.
So I'll quickly answer that, because the idea of the book is to actually give it for free for the people who cannot afford book. So the
Yeah.
aim is to give it for the students who have no access to Merlin and other tools which are available. That's the reason. That's the reason we printed that, and also to the people who has no experience in bird watching, we wanted to distribute it for free. That is the reason we came up with the book last year. I am glad it is helpful for you. Thank you, Praveen. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, all the panelists.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ashwin. Thank you, Pooja and Raja. You accepted the last moment. It was a wonderful session, actually. And Chitra, you are wonderful as usual. It was great, actually. Farida, you want to add some point? Yeah.
No, we are good. Thank you everyone for your time. And
Yeah, bye.
I'm sure it was a great, meaningful discussion for everybody who's present here. We had, I think, close to 60, 70 members today.
70.
Which was really good.
Close to 70.
Yes. Yeah. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks,
Thank
Farida, Sri Sriram, Akbar, and everyone. And yeah, Chitra ji, thank you.